What's up, Pokemaniacs? I am the Online Orphan, and I am your analyst for Season 2 of the Pokemon Ubers League. And today, we are here with the Week 1 Power Rankings. That's right, we are going to go over our rankings for each individual team after the completion of the Week 1 battles. And we are hoping to do this each and every week, so don't worry, no matter where you are at this point in the season has just begun, and any coach has the capability to move up or down from week to week. So we're going to go over each team's week 1 battle, how they fared in that matchup, ranking each team from 20 through number 1. And on each page, we've got 5 teams to go over. So let's start with the bottom of the list, as we are going to jump into 16 through 20 here. Now, as you can see, we have a tie down in the 19th spot here. Unfortunately, at the time of this recording, the Albany Dragonites and Montreal Canadienses had not yet completed their Week 1 battle. So there's really nothing to judge here from Week 1, unfortunately. We likely won't have this issue going into next week, though. So obviously at this point, with nothing to judge, we are putting them in a tie for the last spot. Now, jumping into the number 18 spot after week 1 is going to be the Cleveland Crobats. Now, they definitely started out their battle very well, with a Scarfed Raikou really catching their opponent off guard. But unfortunately, after that, they really were being switched into pretty predictably and got set up on and ended up with a 0-5 loss. So I think the Crobats have a great opportunity with really surprising the opponent right off the bat. That was a really great start to the battle, but they need to be able to keep up the momentum. So as long as they can figure that out going forward, they will be all set. Over in the number 17 spot this week, we have the Seattle Slowpokes here, who suffered a 0-4 loss here. And really, it was not a bad battle considering the final score. However, there were just a couple of issues I had in regards to the battle. It kind of seemed as though the Seismitoad may have not been ready for the Victini, as the Victini really just wrecked through it. Now, of course, that may have just been an issue of, the sun was up and the Victini was a likely choice banded, but that did just incredible amounts of damage. So, and then along with that, there was an issue where they really were unable to bring down the opponent's Yveltal, and trying to go for something like a Hidden Power Ice instead of just going for a Stab, Fire Blast, or Flamethrower. It's much more likely that the Stab move would have done a little more damage and been able to take down that Yveltal. So it was, like I said, overall not a difficult or bad battle to say. However, there were just a couple of things that could have been done differently, and I honestly expect a lot from this team in the Seattle Slowpokes based on their draft. So I can see this team moving up next week very easily. So jumping into the number 16 spot, we have the Southern Blaziken's. The Southern Blaziken's also suffering a 0-4 loss this week. And really, they're only in this spot here because I believe they misplayed around the Donphan. Once the Donphan showed Ice Shard, Donphan was then able to take out 2 of the Blaziken's Mons back-to-back with Ice Shard alone, and really I think that could have been prevented. So I think the misplay around the opponent's Donphan was really the issue here. Now, they did suffer a unfortunate crit in the battle, so they could have been a little bit higher on this list. Again, but I think because of the issue with the play on the Donphan, really cost them a higher spot this week. So that is the first set. Now let's jump up into the next set of rankings as we go through 15 through 11 here. In the 15 spot this week, we're talking about the Blazing Infernape here. Now, the Blazing Infernape did also suffer a 0-4 loss this week, but really had some great predictions on the switches, especially with the Dialga and Lunala switching into moves that were just not effective. Of course, things like Toxic, normal type moves that would not affect Lunala, so really well played. However, there was also an issue with their team prep because their entire team was weak to the opponent's Marshadow. 5 of them were weak to fighting, and 1 was weak to Ghost. So it was, I think the prep could have been a little bit better on the Infernape's part. But like I said, they had some good predictions, but yeah, it was the Marshadow play that really, because Marshadow was well played by their opponent, and again, because the Blazing Infernape's entire team was weak to Marshadow, I think it made this battle very difficult and a little unwinnable for them at that point. So, but again, really decent play. I think the Blazing Infernapes will be jumping up from week to week. So, let's jump into the 14th slot this week. We have the Brighton Boulders here. The Brighton Boulders did suffer a 0-3 loss. However, they started out the battle really well in using the Gothitelle to trap the Lele. However, I would have liked to seen a Thunder Wave immediately as soon as the Gothitelle came out instead of setting up first. That way there could have been potential for para hacks as soon as Gothitelle hit the field. So overall, they did a really good job in this battle. However, they unfortunately were reverse swept by high jump kicks that did not miss. So again, started out the battle fairly well. Again, I would have liked to have seen a Thunder Wave first, but again, they were up 6-3, and they could not finish out the Pheromosa on the opposing side. So I'd like to see some more battles, and I think the Brighton Boulders will be coming out on the upward next week. So let's jump into, in the 13th slot this week, we have the Black City Bisharps. The Black City Bisharps also suffered a 0-3 loss this week, and really they had a decent battle. They were at a point where they could have been swept by Magearna, and clearly there was some calcs that could have been done in order to try and avoid that. I think if the Mewtwo had come in earlier on the Magearna before it got, I think it was 2 Soul Heart boosts at that point, it would have been much easier for the Mewtwo to survive and then take it out with that Earthquake. I think if the Black City Bisharps are able to take their time and make sure that their calcs are open while they're battling, they could have seen that answer a little ahead of time instead of losing, I think it was 2 Mons to that Magearna right away. So, like I said, they were able to prevent that big sweep, but because the Magearna had worn them down and either taken them out, Genesect was able to come in and finish them off with extreme speed. So, not a bad battle, but make sure that you have your calcs open for the future, and you will be all set. Next up, in the 12 spot this week, we have the Lexington Leafeons, who had a 0-2 loss this week. Honestly, the Thunder bring on the Arceus was a great bring, predicting the opponent to set up Rain. Obviously, with the Pelipper and Kyogre on the team, it was very likely that Rain was going to come, so good job bringing the Thunder on Arceus. But I also think that the Roserade was given up too early. I think it could have been saved in the back instead of sacrificed. So I think, again, only an 0-2 loss. I think they played very well, and again, a good team prep with that Thunder on Arceus. But I'd like to see what you can do going forward, and again, a solid battle by the Lexington Leafeons. Next up in the 11th spot here this week, we have the Warsaw Weaviles. And really, this is an issue of a the last week 1 loss. It was an 0-2 loss, but really they didn't play poorly. They had good predictions with their Gliscor against the Mega Lucario. That was a very well played turn, utilizing the Protect to draw out the Ice Punch and then force the opponent to think you're going to switch and then KO back with Earthquake. I think the Warsaw Weaviles had a really great match, and they did a good job during most of the battle, and honestly, I think the battle could have gone either way, so I wouldn't be surprised to see the Weaviles in the winning column within a few weeks. So let's jump into the next set of rankings here, as we will be looking at 6 through 10 here. So here we go. In the 10 spot, we are going to start out with the Wellington Ho-Oh. The Wellington Ho-Ohs also suffered the 0-2 loss this week. The first toxic miss from the Heatran was definitely important, because the Heatran would not have suffered the Scald damage at that point. If the toxic hits, then you can set up the Stealth Rocks and then take the Scald damage and still live that, as it was a defensive Heatran. So that was certainly unfortunate. The burn on the Destiny Bond turn was certainly unfortunate as well. So definitely a couple of unfortunate incidents for the Wellington Ho-Ohs. Not a bad game and not poorly played at all. So I think the Wellington Ho-Ohs will do perfectly fine the rest of the season, and they could definitely climb in the rankings. So jumping into the number 9 spot, we have the Cardwell Colossals here with the 2-0 victory this week. Did a good job of hazard stacking the opponent, forcing them to a defog, and really made good use of the Moltres and Terrakion this week. Had an unfortunate miss right off the bat with a Moltres Fire Blast, but other than that, they played really solid using Moltres and Terrakion to break through the entire opponent's team. So really well done by the Colossals this week. In the 8th spot, we are taking a look at the Calverton Kinglers here. They also had a 2-0 victory, and they were the team that played against those Warsaw Weaviles. Again, they definitely got predicted at one point with that Mega Lucario Gliscor turn, but did really well towards the end of the battle, choosing the perfect time to set up with that Azumarill, getting the Z Belly Drum off at the right time, able to get a couple of kills off that. So well played by the Calverton Kinglers. Next up is the number 7 spot this week, going to the Umende Explods. The Explods also getting a 2-0 victory this week, and really a well-prepped team, in my opinion, by the Explods here. The Scarf Mienshao was a great bring, definitely surprising the opponent. Trick Room was certainly a solid choice as well, as there was a lot of speed on the opponent's side of the field, so good bring there with Trick Room. And really what sealed it was the Cofagrigus Pain Split timing against the, I believe it was Mega Aerodactyl. So really well played a couple of moments in this battle by the Umende Explods, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them continuously climbing this list as well. Next up, in the number 6 spot, we have the Maine Red Clawitzers. The Clawitzers getting the 3-0 victory this week. Again, they did miss the sweep with the Magearna, but brought it back with the Extreme Speed Genesect. So did well choosing when to set up against the opponent. And like I said, were able to complete the team sweep with that Genesect. So very well brought, to bring the Shift Gear Magearna instead of some other form of setup, as I do think that was the correct set. I don't think Trick Room or Calm Mind would have been the play this week, so Shift Gear was the right bring for this week for the Clawitzers. Now let's jump into the top 5 teams from week 1, as we are going to start with the Jacksonville Jolteons in the 5 spot this week. they were able to pull out a 3-0 victory. Again, they were down in this battle 6-3, but then Faramosa comes in, clicks high jump kick, and reverse sweeps without missing. You know, obviously high jump kick will hit more times than it will miss, but of course we have all had a Pokemon with high jump kick miss before, and we know how disastrous that could be. But honestly, if it wasn't for the speedy Faramosa being able to outspeed everything on the opponent's team, it seems like the Jolteon may have lost their battle this week. So it was difficult for me to put them higher on this list because, again, they were down 6-3 and obviously got a little bit lucky with the no-miss high jump kicks. So Jacksonville Jolteons did a good job, and I expect to see continuous good things from this team. In the 4 spot this week, we have the Melbourne Staryu. The Melbourne Staryu had a 4-0 victory and really were just in control of this battle for most of the time. Well played with the Donphan, really to catch the opponent with multiple ice shards and just get rid of a few threats on the opponent's team. Did get that lucky critical hit in the battle, so I wasn't able to put them higher because of that, but I think the Melbourne Staryu could have a chance at staying in the top 5 for a good portion of the season. Next up in the 3 spot this week, we have the Haxo Halderan. Really, they had a pretty good matchup, winning with the 4-0 victory this week. I wasn't a fan of the immediate Zydog throwaway in the beginning of the match, but after that, really well played. Did a good job of stalling with the P2 and Toxapex. Really, that's just a terrible wall core to try and get through, but played very well with them, using them to wear down the opponent, stall turns while Toxic was taking effect. And because of that, they were able to wear down the opponent's Mons and then sweep with their attackers. So a very good matchup by the Halderan. Again, not a fan of the way the Zydog went down right away, but obviously brought it back. So that is why they hold the number 3 spot this week. As we jump into the number 2 spot, and that is going to be the Boston Celebi, celebrating a 4-0 victory this week. And really, the only thing to say about this was great brings with the Torkoal and the Sylveon. I believe I read in the comments that the Sylveon was Choice Banded Pixelate Quick Attack, so definitely an interesting bring, but clearly worked out well. And the Torkoal was so defensive to take a Z move from Solgaleo. It barely took any damage from that Z move, so great prep. Really good battle, solid play all around is all we can say about that. And taking the number 1 spot this week, and yes, I know I misspelled the team, but that's going to happen, is the Crazy Kermit Club. The Crazy Kermit Club, only team with the 5-0 victory this week. Really, they lost their first Mon right at the beginning to a Scarf Raikou, but from there on out, they picked the perfect time to set up with Kartana, getting that Swords Dance off, and then they were able to complete the sweep from there. Really knowing exactly when to pick their time to set up with the Kartana and then just start getting the Beast Boost is what put them in this number 1 spot. So I hope you guys enjoyed this Week 1 power rankings here for the Pokemon Ubers League. If you did, hit that thumbs up down below and subscribe for more Draft League content. Check out the links in the description for all the information about the league, where you can find a bunch of us as well. Once again, I am the Online Orphan, and I am signing out.